Sayanta Nyatsi there, Sakina, and while you listen to Penny Penny, right, you also take it back to some of the people, Sakina, that a lot of the reporters were speaking to across the country. There is this growing sense, again, of saying, do not make us any empty promises. We now need to see action on the ground. And it seems to be the underlying tone.
It certainly is for ordinary South Africans, but you juxtapose that with the, cognitive dissonance when you listen to the officials, to some of the office bearers, and it's almost as if they are not a part or have not been a part of what is happening. So, that's going to be interesting to hear what they say afterwards, especially within the context of the GNU partners who also have their own expectations of what they would like to see weaved into the president's speech from their perspectives. Whether he's going to do it or not remains to be seen. But of course, I believe it's Magwinya, Fedcook and Magwinya.
Natasha, on that note, we'll just hand it over to you and Vincent Magwinya.
Not sure about others.
Thank you so much. So I'm joined by Vincent Magwinya, who is the presidential spokesperson. Vincent, let's just cut straight to it. First and foremost, I can hear this conversation actually having right now, the repatriation of our fallen soldiers. What is actually happening, around that? We were told that they were going to be, their bodies are going to, or their remains were going to be repatriated yesterday.
The department has issued a statement on the matter, Natasha. I think that statement will clarify the status of that process.
The U.S. Secretary of State saying that he won't be attending the G20?
Well, we kind of expected that will happen, but not for the reasons that he gave, which we absolutely refute, and we've responded to in great deal. Our view still remains that we want to engage the Trump administration over these issues. We will hope that the Trump administration will be just as open to engaging with us instead of just issuing tweets and statements on social media. Ultimately, whatever dispute they may have with us must be resolved through discussions, through engagements, but we will observe what they're sending out, and we will always refute any disinformation. We still maintain that the information they have is completely inaccurate. The information they're putting out about South Africa is completely false, and that we will always assert. But we are looking forward to a point where we will be able to engage with them over these issues.
And of course, the president has engaged with Elon Musk. Of course, you've released a statement, on that. But I just want to talk more about that. What more can you actually reveal from those conversations? And furthermore, the EFF had said that you've broken those diplomatic protocols.
Let me deal with the EFF. The president of this country can talk to whoever he so feels he wants to talk to. I don't know what protocol they're talking about, but that is a non-issue. The president has engaged with Elon Musk before. The president on a regular basis engages with people from all walks of life. If he feels it's necessary to do so in the interest of the country, and is not going to be micromanaged with non-existing protocols. With respect to what more can I reveal with...
Vincent, unfortunately, we'll catch up with you after this. I understand Ayanda is joined by the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Mr. Buti Manamela.
Is trying to catch as much as he can here on the red carpet. I've got two ministers, well, a minister and a deputy, and that's supposed the nature of the game where we're at. So perhaps Ching Chong Sha will start on my right-hand side, the electricity minister, Dr. Hussein Turamokopa, man of the moment in some instances, given, I suppose, just how much of the national discourse has been overtaken by the power cuts and what happened over the past weekend. Let me just get your sense from you, what you expect the president to say specifically about load shedding today.
Well, first we have accepted that the structural constraint to the growth of the South African economy, twofold, is the energy deficit and the logistics side. And we've been able to articulate our plan on the energy side, and you can see, I mean, the trend line is positive. The fact that we've been able to sustain 10 months of uninterrupted power supply, notwithstanding the setback over the weekend, the turnaround 30 hours, and we did explain ourselves just to build the reserves, and the outlook extremely positive going into the future. And once we get synchronized unit number 6 Kusile, unit number 4 Midupi, we're going to have a completely different conversation. But the underlying problem, it's a growth problem. So for as long as you don't resolve that growth problem, you'll continue to expand the social wage. As you expand the social wage, you are putting pressure on your fiscal resources, and there's so much that we can borrow, and I think we're getting to the tip of the borrowing. Of course, borrowing is not a problem, debt is not a problem, it's the degree to which you are able to service it. But for as long as the economy is not growing, you will not succeed. And that's why we're doing everything possible to ensure that there's sufficient supply. And then the next agenda, which I'll announce in the next 2 weeks, is how we resolve load reduction.
All right, and you know, business typically has a keen interest on the State of the Nation address to hear specifically what is said about all these important issues, including the growth you've alluded to. I suppose the question is, what is the message to business as they watch today from your portfolio about what the next couple of months look like, especially because you've already mentioned that we're not necessarily out of the woods, so to speak?
Well, the point is that we must be transparent. So I think we are not going to mask any challenges. So the trend line is positive. Like I said, once we get that 1,600 megawatts, 800 will come now in February, Kusile number 6, Midupi number 4 next March. And then I'll be announcing in the next 2 weeks, I think, our investment on the transmission side, the biggest post-apartheid bill program by government. So I mean, about 440 billion rands. So we've designed instruments to support that. We can't rely on the sovereign balance sheet. So I'm confident that we're going to get it right, and business will hear those messages. And of course, the counterparty, because we have liberalized new generation capacity. So I'm confident we are on the right path.
Minister Hossein Ramokgopa, thanks very much indeed. The electricity minister there speaking to us about his own expectations. From one portfolio to another, higher education and training, Buti Manamela is the deputy minister in that portfolio. And Deputy Minister, you'll introduce your guest from Motheo TVET College, who you've brought through here, and you'll tell us why. Higher education at this time of the year in sharp focus. You've heard the refrain already. So many matriculants working hard to get through high school, so little of them getting a chance to pursue a higher education.
Yeah, and I think over and above the matriculants who got through, you have about 4 million young people who are not in education or employment or training, and that's the main focus. And those young people can't go to universities, and even those who pass grade 12 can't all go into university. So we can't just have lawyers and doctors and and so forth. We need plumbers, we need welders, we need electricians. So we need those kind of skills that will help build South Africa. These are the people who are actually keeping this country, moving. If you're talking to the Minister of Energy, if you're talking to the Minister of Public Works, any of the ministers, anyone in the private sector, the people who are basically building the foundation of this country are people who are doing it with tools. And so, but we've fashioned careers and all of that around people who wear suits and stuff. And I think it's about time when we say, the real skills are from there. And that's why we're using this State of the Nation address to profile vocational skills, and that's why I'm here with the principal of Motheo TVET.
Yes, and I'm going to interrupt you, Deputy Minister, just to get a quick word from the principal. Your ambitions, very quickly, in 30 seconds today.
Is to see young people participating in the economy, but getting skilled through the TVET colleges. We offer programs that are responsive to the labor market. We just introduced occupational qualifications that represent exactly the careers within the system. So it's important that young people should know that there are qualifications called electricians, plumber, which they can be able to attract it.
Thank you very much. There you have it. All right, the sentiments being shared here from the Higher Education and Training Ministry or department in the country. Bulelani, plenty of people to speak to. Who do you have now?
All right, thank you so much. fighting crime and corruption is expected to be one of the main themes that the president is expected to speak on when he delivers the State of the Nation address. Of course, one of the institutions that has been doing a sterling job in making recoveries of money stolen from the state is the Special Investigating Unit. Advocate Ndimo Tibi is the head of the SIU. Thank you, sir, for being patient, and thank you for your time. Firstly, you've been receiving quite a number of proclamations from the president to do investigations. Are you making headway? Because sometimes I get the feeling that you are co-governing in some of these entities and departments.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. The number of proclamations that you refer to, it's really a clear demonstration that building a capable state cannot happen without fighting crime and corruption. And you have seen from what you're saying, the number of proclamations that have been issued really cover at all spheres of government, provincial, national, and local. Lately, you would have seen that there's a few proclamations issued covering even the KZN space, Itala Bank, amongst others. You would know that that bank presents a case where monies of indigent people could have been deposited, and we need to make sure that we dive deep and uncover the rot that happened and why is it that the bank is where it is today. So we do that in various of the other institutions where we are investigating.
What would you say to those who are defending that bank, the Itala Bank, saying it was doing some good work?
Look, it's for us really to go and, as I say, dive deep. But and you know that there's a few contracts that are specified in the proclamation, but amongst others, we're also going to dive deep into maladministration and failure of governance, and we will then have to then pronounce whether there was good work being done or not done. So it is very critical, and I'm mentioning this as an example because it cuts across all the entities, all the institutions of government, that we need to ultimately make sure that while we investigate, we also really contribute to the governance and the administration of these institutions towards building a capable state.
All right, thank you so much, Advocate Ndimo Tibi, the head of the SIU. For more commentary and reactions on the floor, we cross to you, Lulama.
Thank you very much, Bulelani. I am joined by the Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Peace Mabe. Ma'am, you're looking fabulous.
100% locally made. Thank you very much for having me. SC Apparels.
Your portfolio, there's so many issues that the art industry wants President to address. What would you want to hear from him?
Look, especially that we are hosting the G20. We are the hosts of the G20. We expect, of course, President to talk about the role that the creatives will play during this hosting period of the G20. Opportunities that would be there, of course, if we invite people from different countries to South Africa, we need to showcase talent. We need to show them our culture and, of course, talent that is here in South Africa.
There's also, ma'am, the talk of school sports, because that's where you groom future champions.
Yes, school sports is an ongoing topic, of course. We have just signed a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education. We believe in grassroots sports because if we do not nurture young talent, there's no way that at the age of 25 you can just become a professional. So school sports is very important so that we nurture children at an early age.
Thank you very much for your time, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
With that, Natasha, take it over.
Thank you so much, Lulama. We're still here on the red carpet, and of course a key feature that is expected to actually dominate today's State of the Nation address is issues around local government. And of course my next guest is a person who's been speaking about and talking tough about local government, about service delivery, the creation of jobs, and of course the SEZs in Limpopo that the government wants to implement. How far is that process, Premier Poppy Ramoto?
No, thank Thank you very much. At least we are starting to see progress on both the Fitakhomo Tobatsi SEZ, which already we have a number of investors who have made commitments. The day before yesterday, who were here for the mining in Daba. We have signed an MOU with some of the mine like Glencore, which is operating around the Fitakhomo Tobatsi SEZ. So work will continue. We are just waiting for the national government to declare it and to license it, which a commitment has already been made that before the end of this financial year we should be. So you would start to see a lot of development happening in that part of our province. And coming to Musina Makado SEZ, we've also made a lot of progress since the last year, wherein challenges which were there, including the issues of the land transfer, wherein public works at the national level had to sign. Treasury has already given concurrency in that. So we are making progress. We have already also receive a lot of commitments. Minister of Electricity is also assisting us, especially on the renewable energy within that part. So our SEZ, they receive a major boost during our investment conference, because if you look at the 150 billion that were pledged during that time, those billions of rands were also catering and covering for our 2 SEZ. So we are confident that this year we will start to see, and the people of Limpopo will start to see something happening, because all along they hear about this SEZ, which are going to create jobs, but they don't see anything happening. But working hard with all stakeholders, we think we are on the right path.
Dr. Poppy, thank you so much for your time. And by the way, you're looking very beautiful in your South African-made outfit. Of course, this is as I toss to my colleague, Bulelani Phillips. Bulelani, who are you with now?
Thank you so much, Natasha. I've got a very familiar face I haven't seen in a while. Mr. Lichisa Sinodi, the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
What are you doing with your time nowadays?
Learning how to be retired, and of course going around a little bit, traveling a little bit, visiting places that I've always wanted to visit, and it's great learning about the proud history that our country has everywhere else.
All right, you miss this place, Telela?
No, I've done my bit, so I must focus on other equally interesting things out there to confront the priorities that people are really demanding of government.
And you, as a South African citizen, what would you expect the president to speak on that would touch you as an individual?
If in the overall what the president says touches the people where it matters most, that their ability to be employed, their ability on their own to deal with problems of poverty, but the state to remove the major obstacles to unemployment, to poverty and inequality. Those things are doable. The correct practices must be followed without hesitation, with no doubt at all. People demand that and nothing less.
Quickly, I'm out of time. Do you believe in the GNU?
The GNU is a construct that was arrived at, and unfortunately it means we are hobbled to a certain extent. We would have loved to be together with all those that we agree with fully, so that we advance the interests of the people without hindrance of one kind or another.
All right, thank you so much. All the best, Mr. Lechisa Tsinodi, the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. For more commentary and reaction, Natasha, we cross to you.
Thank you so much, Bulelani. Of course, we're getting reactions from every sector of society, not only our officials. We're joined by a representative from NEDLAC, Mr. Thulani Chefuta. Thulani, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. So, your expectations from the Sona, especially around issues of, inclusive growth, job creation as well?
We actually expect that the president should take the bar to a level of articulating programs that are going to support the priorities that have been agreed upon in the medium-term development plan. And there is general support for focus on economic growth and employment creation. There is support for the fight against poverty and tackling the high cost of living and the capacity of the state. So he must articulate programs that are going to buttress those pillars of work. Most important of all must be a dedicated focus on how we boost the skills in order to link those to the labor market and create employment, especially for young people.
And you speak to some of the priorities that were outlined by the President at the opening of Parliament last year. We had set key priorities for the country for the next 5 years, but people are also saying that they can't see tangible results, on the ground. We were told that South Africa is being turned into a construction site. What tangible things can we see?
The first of those is that you have electricity and water sitting on two sides of the equation. If you don't address those, they become a binding constraint to investments, to growth and job creation. But if you address those, they leverage investments, growth and employment. And the progress that has been made on load shedding is a positive sign that must be commended, because its impact does not only affect businesses and economic growth, but households at a community level. And so across all of those, there are activities. That's why we're saying the activities that must be articulated to say, when we say we fight poverty, what are we doing?
Thank you so much, Ned. Like there, of course, let me link to Ayanda right now. Or am I looking to Bulelani? I'm not so sure, but a gentleman, whoever can hear me first, please take it away.
They're going to take my chair. I don't understand.
All right, thank you so much. We are in a scrum here, Natasha, but I'm going to speak to former Cabinet Minister Ms. Naledi Pandor, who's just here on the red carpet.
I think that we have institutions in the country that can help to build capacity. It's one of the interests we have in the Nelson Mandela Foundation to contribute to improving public sector capacity and ability to execute projects. We can offer that kind of support to government, our universities can. So let us use all the skills institutes to help us to do better.
What do you make of the impasse between South Africa and the United States as a former Foreign Affairs Minister?
Well, I think you've got to continue diplomatic efforts. I believe that it calls on our diplomatic team to really intensify their communication, to clarify our policy positions without detracting from the independence of our own policy. But I think it's a matter that can be handled with good diplomatic efforts.
How do we deal with the misinformation, particularly in relation to the Expropriation Act?
Well, really, it's obviously not been read very well, because if you read it, you can't have those interpretations. So someone has been misinforming the Americans, and apparently it's one of our own NGOs in South Africa. Shame on them. So I think we must correct all the misconceptions and ensure that we put our position very clearly.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Naledi Pandor, former Cabinet Minister. We're now going to cross to the other side of the precinct where Ayanda is standing by.
Thank you very much. Indeed, Bulalani, of course, plenty of people to speak to. I'm standing with Tokyo Sekhuale, needs no introduction. Great to speak to you, sir. There's been a lot of talk around government working at a local government level. You've had a role that you've played at that level, and I wonder where you reckon we could start.
Well, instead of talking about local government here on the pavements, we want the president in the State of the Nation address to strike the right note on the question of local government. That's where electricity is. That's where water is. And things are going wrong here. That is where you have potholes. So the government has got to plug those political, policy and implementation potholes. That's point number one. I hope he strikes the right note today instead of, there are many challenges, such as those coming from Africa with the divisions in Congo and so on. The president should not spend time on that, although he may make references. On top of that, there are issues around the world. Palestine, he can make reference to that to show that we are part of the world. He can make references also to the tensions, not too much, that we have. That will be addressed later, that are coming from our traditional trading partners, the United States. However, for today, the people want to know the state of our nation, not the state of the world. What are the issues around unemployment? What are the issues around poverty and so on? Remember, 30 years ago, there was a government of nationality, so this is nothing new. It was addressed by Nelson Mandela for the first time. We want to say 30 states of the nations. Thereafter, what have we done and what have we achieved? That's the challenge of today. Go ahead.
It's an interesting sentiment. I mean, do you think you shouldn't speak about the DRC even though 14 of our soldiers have died there?
No, sir. I didn't say the president shouldn't speak about that. Don't get me wrong. I said he must not spend time on those issues. He can make a reflection. He can attach part of the speech to what happens in Palestine, Americans, to show that we are sensitive to those issues. But today, we want to hear him more on what troubles South Africans so much. Remember, there's local government, as you said, elections coming within a few months from now. That's what the president would like, the people of South Africa would like to hear from their president, the state of our nation. He'll find time for the state of the world. But we're looking forward. Congratulations to him. I hope he strikes the right notes and it's with pinpoint accuracy.
Is this the cash money that you're going to give him?
I keep a secret.
Right. So, Kusugole, thanks very much indeed. All right, there's plenty of people to catch up to. The momentum is picking up very quickly where we're at. Natasha, I know you're speaking to a few people, but I want to see if I might be able to grab very, very quickly, if you'll indulge me, Mameloko Kubai, wearing a different hat, looking stunning, by the way. Is it local?
It is local, done by a woman in Pretoria, Divine Touch, a touch of Sitsonga, which is my own tradition today.
All right, and it's giving a bit of a mermaid flair to it. You are in a different position now, having it taken over just a few weeks ago, but there is so much attention to law enforcement and the country's prosecutorial powers. Are you anticipating the president to say anything new about that today?
Yes, we would expect the president, even if it's not new, because the issue about fighting crime and corruption has to remain with us until we deal away with all. So it's not about new, but reaffirming our commitment as government to deal with corruption. So I'm expecting him to re-emphasize dealing with GBV. It's important so that the courts are able, the environment is enabled to be able to deal with gender-based violence and femicide. Those are most important, but also for us as the executive and the state to respond and recognize that the judicial arm remains one of the most critical and important institutions that keeps our democracy.
Yeah. There had been reported tensions between the NPA and your department. Are we over those as you and I speak today?
Look, when I arrived, I asked what is the tension, because I met with them. There could be differences in how we implement things, but there are no tension where I'm sitting. I have explained to both of the teams. They know we're sitting around the table regularly and engaging. So I'm comfortable that everybody will do their role in ensuring that South Africa has an efficient and effective justice system.
All right, Mameloko Kubai, thanks very much indeed. The Minister of Constitutional Justice speaking to us. Natasha, I know you're standing by with a bit more color this evening.
Definitely, and of course I'm joined by our country's gem here, Miss World South Africa, looking ever so beautiful. I hope you are dressed in a proudly South African outfit.
Absolutely, I am dressed by the one and only Casper Bosman, a true innovator, incredibly creative individual, proudly South African, so I'm privileged to be standing in his outfit here this evening.
You're, as a young person yourself, I mean, we've been hearing young people say that they lament the high unemployment rate, which sits at 49.14% when it pertains to young people, issues around no space at higher institutions of learning. What do you expect from the president, and how do you expect him to actually address these issues that actually plague young people in the country?
Can I tell you, I think me standing here today is step one in the right direction. As a young individual myself, I've understood what it means to facilitate your own success, and that's what I as an individual want to teach to people, and hopefully our president can draw inspiration from that. Seeing what we are doing, seeing what we can do and what we can contribute can be inspiration to him to actually open up spaces, to give us a podium to be loud about the causes close to our heart. So I hope that can inspire him to give us more opportunities, not only within in this space, but globally as well.
Thank you so much. Awesome seeing you. Let me take this conversation also to Kenny Kunene, who is the deputy, president of the Patriotic Alliance, as well as the MMC of Roads and Transport in the city of Johannesburg. And I think first and foremost, let's just start off with serious issues, Mr. Kunene. We've seen what happened, in the city of Johannesburg. Those two Rea Vaya bus drivers, unfortunately, being fatally shot. What do you expect to hear from the president, especially when it pertains to issues around transport?
Thank you very much, Natasha, for having me. Obviously, the GNU, this Sona is a different Sona. Different parties have made contributions in their departments as to what they want to see, as to the service delivery targets. So we expect this Sona to be different. We expect this Sona to be practical. But what you are mentioning of the drivers that were shot, it's a clear example of how crime is so rife in our country. And one would expect the president to speak to how this GNU government is going to fight crime, is going to make sure that our people live in peace. But one of the things that we also expect the president to speak to is how are we going to secure our borders and must deport all illegal immigrants, because whenever they commit crimes, their fingerprints are not in the system. So we expect the president to talk to unemployment. How is the GNU going to mitigate the issue of unemployment, create jobs? How are we going to make sure that we make South Africa great? So these are some of the things that one expects the president to touch on. Sports, arts and culture is one department that is responsible for social cohesion. How are we going to strengthen that department so that we see the issues of social cohesion being dealt with in a very serious way?
And I want to catch you in there. You speak about social cohesion. We were covering your minister yesterday, issues of expropriation, of land, saying that there are those quarters who are deliberately lying and peddling lies about the expropriation of land in the country. Also further, labeling AfriForum as a terrorist group.
Yeah, look, if you are in South Africa and you are an institution or an association and you speak against your country, then you will be labeled as such. Number one, we must be patriotic. We must put South Africa first. We must defend South Africa even when we disagree with others outside of the borders. Even when we agree with them, we must still defend our country. In as far as the utterances of President Trump are concerned, we need to take that as a wake-up call. Trump is basically saying, wake up South Africa, wake up Africa. You cannot continue to depend on other countries for your survival when you have minerals. So this must be a wake-up call to say we need to depend on ourselves. We need to make sure that the minerals that we have in this country serve the interest of our people and our country and lead us to prosperity. So there's nothing wrong that Trump said from where I'm sitting except to give us a wake-up call. Let us stop.
What do you mean there's nothing wrong with what Trump said?
Everybody has got the right to their opinion. But the fact of the matter is whether Trump misinterpreted what was said or not. But the wake-up call is let us stop depending on superpowers for grants and funding when we have minerals where we can be able to fund ourselves and develop this country. So it is a wake-up call.
Well, Mr. Kenny Kunene, on that note, before I toss to my colleagues, we must scold you. You are wearing international brands, and the theme today is, are you wearing Proudly South African? Clearly you're not. So next year, please follow the mandates. Ayanda, who are you with?
All right, Natasha, thanks very much indeed. I'm standing with the tourism minister. You'll forgive us because there's a lot going on within this vicinity, Minister. I'm sure you'll agree. You look lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
What are we wearing?
Sandy Masabuko, up-and-comer designer. She's got her own label, Fabri Sands. And the print is inspired by the capital, Tshwane, Pretoria. So it's got a picture of an aerial photo of the Union buildings. It's got our own rants and cents on there. And you know, all the architecture within the city of Tshwane. But of course, Amapiano was also born there, so the street culture. So, you know, we said, let us put the capital on the map. And then she came up with this design.
Wow, you have worn so many different hats over the years. You've also at some stage lit this city, which is now named among the best in the world. But speak to me in your capacity as the tourism minister, in a context where we know tourism does so much for a country like ours. What is difficult though is that we don't always have the best stories being reflected elsewhere in the world. And I imagine that brings its own challenges.
Yes, but you know, tourism is growing. We welcome 8.92 million tourists in 2024. We've seen a growth of 10% coming from America. We've seen growth from Africa, from Brazil, from all over the world. And we just must do more with getting more international airlines to fly into our country. But we've relaxed the visa regime, and two big source markets, India and China, will now be able to come to South Africa also on a 90-day visa. We have appointed tour operators in India and China to boost the tourism. So I'm very upbeat about the growth coming from two big source markets, India and China. But also we are hosting the G20. And we're going to have more than 135 business events alone, besides the big heads of state one that come in.
Are you worried about what Trump's comments might do to that though?
No, not at all. I don't think that all the Americans are on X, and I don't think all of them are listening to him. They're coming. Those flights from America, it's full on a daily basis. And I want to say to the American tourists, they're always welcome in our country.
All right, Tourism Minister Patriotism, thanks very much indeed. There you have it, an optimistic tourism minister despite what's being said geopolitically speaking from the US. Natasha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ayanda. We'll be joined shortly by the Minister of Small Businesses and Development, of course, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. And she'll be talking to us about, the work of her department and the initiatives that have been put in place, of course, to support those, who own small businesses in the country. Of course, we've been speaking to young people throughout the country saying that much more needs to be done to support local and small businesses. And talking about local businesses, we've got this brand behind us that says, "Are you wearing local?" But actually, here she is joining me right now, wearing local, looking very beautiful, I might add. And who are you wearing today?
House of Ole by Ole.
So, Minister, let's just get straight to it. Last year, in the opening of his Parliament address, President Cyril Ramaphosa had said that they are convinced as government that small businesses and the informal sector hold the greatest potential for inclusive growth and job creation. But, you speak to the young people that we've been speaking to in Cape Town, saying that, please look at us, please fund us more. What initiatives do you have for them that can actually support them in the small businesses?
Well, we provide lots of support to small businesses, not to young people. Different sizes, different ages, but what's important, you should be a small enterprise, whether you are medium or a cooperative, and we provide both the non-financial support and the financial support. Now, what we mean about the non-financial support is when we provide instruments like the equipment that small businesses need, or the training that is required, or assistance with the compliance, because now people are not able to get opportunities because they'll be saying this small business is not compliant. So we assist them with that. But the other crisis or the other challenge that they're faced with is that of lack of affordable infrastructure that they must use to trade in, whether as accountants, like we've seen lots of accountants, doctors that are struggling, and we have stepped into that direction to say we're providing infrastructure for some small enterprise.
Last question, Minister, it's a very important year for South Africa. We are hosting the G20. How will that translate to job creation, especially from small businesses?
Definitely, if you are bringing the G20 in South Africa, it means firstly, the opportunities in the tourism industry, all the different segments in tourism, but those are opportunities for small enterprises, the creatives, the entertainment that we're talking about. That is why we've set aside a particular funding that is looking at upgrading the lodges, the guest houses, the hotels that are owned by especially black-owned small businesses. And then we're also helping the creatives with some of the information that they need and the financial support that they require to make sure that everybody enjoys being the president of the G20, because it is not only government that is the president of G20. It is South Africans, because South Africa is hosting. Therefore, it's not our glory, it is South African glory.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. And of course, let's toss there to Yanda. I believe he's got guests.
Natasha, thanks very much indeed. All right, let's jump straight into our next guest. Velenkosini Hlabisa is, of course, the Cooperative Governance Minister. Slipped my mind for a while there. Minister, great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making a moment. You and I are speaking as the countdown to the deadline for the registration of spaza shops looms even closer. I wonder whether or not you reckon this incredible nightmare that featured in our country over the past couple of months will in fact be reflected upon by the President today.
Indeed, this is the first Sona of the President under the GNU. It's going to be a different presentation to the nation. He will be reflecting on challenges the country is going through, but also offering solutions. We are just from the Cabinet Lekgotla, where we agreed on minimum things that the 7th administration must concentrate on: the recovery of our economy, dealing with the unemployment issue, fix our government in terms of service delivery. The local government will take a prime feature, because for our country to work, our local government structure must be functional, more investment must be done on infrastructure, more job opportunities must be created. Young people should be our focus in order to ensure that we invest in the future generation.
Absolutely. Another very important issue, of course, has to do with making sure that the local government, as you've mentioned, does work in ways that it should. And I wonder what you reckon a good starting point is, given how long-standing this problem has been at a local government level.
The opportunity this time around is that at a cabinet level, we all agree that we need to rally around the local government sphere, make it work. This attention has never been given before. It is now that we all realize that for investment to occur in our municipalities, they must be functional. So if we want to fix challenges of South Africa, we must fix the local government sphere, and this is a common approach we are taking. There is an interministerial committee composing of 15 ministers dealing with local government in order to make it work, assisting COPTA, all of us pulling our ideas together, and it is indeed going to be functional this time.
Velenkosini Hlabisa, thanks very much indeed. That is the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister, speaking very highly of the Government of National Unity, even though we know the IFP, the party he leads, is among the organizations that have taken exception to the signing of the expropriation bill into law. That aside, Natasha, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Ayana. We're now joined by the Deputy Minister, Nonxeba Mhlauli. Thank you so much for joining us. Girl, who are you wearing? What are you wearing? You are snatched.
Thank you so much. I'm wearing a dress by Asana Makibi. She's a young female designer, and I'm so happy that she was able to put together something for me, and I genuinely just love her work.
I think let's just talk about the G20, how this translates to young people as well, prioritizing the Global South.
One of the things that we're actually really looking forward to is the President speaking about the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, which is obviously an initiative that is housed in the presidency, and the work that has been done ensuring that young people get the necessary training that they get, but more than anything, how do we place those young people into sustainable jobs. So obviously with G20 coming and all of the 130-something meetings that we're going to be having between February and November, we're really hoping that some of those conversations will be an agenda that places youth at the center of what becomes sustainable development, not only for South Africa, but also for the continent and for young people around the world, because the issues that affect young people are the same. Youth development is a global issue. Youth unemployment is a global issue. Youth unemployment on the continent, is something that affects us all. So we're really looking forward to those conversations, of getting all of the global leaders around the table to chart a way forward to deal with this very important problem.
Nxeba, thank you so much for your time. We're also joined here by Action SA leader, Mr. Herman Mashaba. Perhaps, your expectations for the Sona, Mr. Mashaba, especially, seeing what we're seeing in the country, the spats over the Expropriation Act, the spats over the Bella Bill, the Bella Act, I beg your pardon, NHI. What are your expectations as Action SA?
Well, I think, let's not as a country really deal with side issues. Let's really deal with real issues affecting 12 million unemployed South Africans. So we really hope that the president today, for the first time since the ANC lost the grip over power, let's see what this grand coalition is going to do. 70% block, so they have the power to bring in the laws that can actually make a meaningful lives to millions of our people who are today unemployed. 80 people being murdered on a single day, the rape being the order of the day in our country. We really appeal to the president not to be taken over by side issues, people talking about expropriation, human rights abuses, on things that do not exist. So let's focus on South Africa. South Africa is a sovereign country. We can just have to really look at our constitution. There's no way in our constitution where any country in the world has got a say in the domestic affairs of our country, and the president needs to provide that leadership. He needs to get all these what are called traitors, let them provide evidence of what they're selling to the international community, talking bad about our country.
Thank you so much for your time. Let me just get more reactions here. I've got you, Auspingi. Oh my gosh, wearing a white and black. Girl, you are the girl that you think you are. Look at how beautiful you are. Can we just, before we get to critical matters, look at you, looking so nice. So who is this dress made by?
BG from South Africa, Gauteng. She has always been one of my dressers through and through. And you can see she can't disappoint.
No, she outdid herself.
And my other name is Sharon. So I'm the Rose of Sharon today.
Okay. Rose of Sharon, on to critical matters, the expectations for the State of the Nation address.
Look, one of the things that we know is going to be top on the agenda of the president is capacity of the state to deliver and the professionalization of public service. Something very close to all of us, and we are saying we are ready.
Thank you so much. Let me just quickly bring in Deputy Minister David Mahloba. Thank you so much. And his partner looking very beautiful, ma.
Thank you.
Who are you wearing?
Not advertising anyone. I just went to the shop.
I hope it's proudly South African though.
Definitely.
Let's talk about issues around water. Water challenges, water shedding.
What will happen, His Excellency, our President, will prioritize the question of fixing local government and service delivery. In service delivery, our matters of water will be very high because they are becoming a binding constraint, both for the economy and a number of South Africans. There's been a lot of disruption without having access to water. We have a very clear plan on how are we going to ensure water security around bulk infrastructure issues, but we must then fix local government in terms of reliability of supply, the technical capability, then mobilize, including the issues of funding, because most of them, they are broke. They even owe our water boards, they owe ESCOM, they must be paid, but issues around financial provision, financial support, and operational capability will be at the center of some of the issues we must take forward.
Deputy Minister, thank you so much for your time. And I do believe you also have guests. What's on your side right now?
Yeah, Natasha, indeed we do. The ministers keep streaming in. I'm now standing with Dr. Groenewald and his partner, Mrs. Groenewald. Lovely to see you both. Thanks for making time to stop by. We have to start by just getting a sense of whether you got the memo about wearing local.
About what?
About wearing local. Local is the idea today.
Wearing local, I'm not going to reveal the name where I bought everything, but yes, it's local.
Okay.
Everything, nothing important.
Fair enough. I have to engage you about the sentiments from the United States. You must have seen what the Secretary of State there has said about South Africa, again alluding to the land policy issues as were reflected by Donald Trump. The perception out there is that what's happening in the US is largely because of the sentiments fanned by the Freedom Front Plus and many of your followers about what is happening in the country. What's the response to that?
Well, first of all, I must put it very clearly that myself and the Freedom Front Plus is against the Expropriation Act at this moment. We are vehemently against expropriation without compensation. and I do not apologize for that. Therefore, I did formally or requested the President to not sign it, but refer it directly to the Constitutional Court. He said no, he's not going to do it. So we will take it to the Constitutional Court. I said that the glue that will keep the GNU together is constitutionality. And this is a matter of, we believe it is unconstitutional when it comes to expropriation without compensation, and we will continue with that. And of course, I already said that if a country donate certain funds to a specific country, and that country does not act in terms of the Constitution, they have the full right to revise their decision. So it's for the United States of America to make their decisions. But let's first see whether the Constitution and the determination of the constitutionality on the expropriation without compensation.
I don't want to misquote you, Dr. Groenewald. Are you saying that the United States officials are justified in saying what they've said?
Well, I don't know exactly what every word they said. But what I do say, it is justifiable that the United States can ask exactly what is going on in South Africa, but they must find out what is going on. And if someone says there is no land grab in South Africa, I disagree. I can bring the proof that take for instance Olivenhout-Bosch, there was land invasion, and that is in the media, and that is totally unacceptable.
But that's not a government-sanctioned thing, unless that's what you're saying, that the government had sanctioned people moving onto that land.
I didn't say the government sanctioned that.
But that's the insinuation from Donald Trump. Part of what he said is that there's a confiscating of land and there are human rights violations, which he alluded to being legislated.
That they must sort out between themselves. As I said, I didn't read everything what he said. What I know is that they asked questions, and they said they want to acquaint themselves exactly about what is happening in South Africa. I think I welcome that. And if we don't have anything to hide, why will we complain about it? We must invite them. Please come in and see for yourself what is happening in South Africa.
All right, Dr. Groenewald, Mr. Groenewald, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate the time. Those are the sentiments from the FF Plus, a member of the GNU, by the way. Natasha, let's continue canvassing the sentiments of the people.